So, StreamYard.
Coach Nick, you were muted for the intro.
I was, and I had already unclicked them, so they deserve a big F for today for a lot of reasons. It wasn't broadcasting the image in the beginning either. Well, let's do the intro again, shall we?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure. By the way, everybody could do it. They all know it. They all know what I say, but I'm going to do it anyway. Ready?
Yep.
Hey, sports fans. Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show, coming at you, as always, on a Monday, and always joined by Andrew Combo Sal to discuss the latest and the greatest in the NBA. Lots to talk about today, Combo. How are you doing?
The bad boy Pistons are back. They have a superstar, a generational talent in Cade Cunningham. So I guess it's Detroit versus everybody.
Let me say this. Remember how JB Bickerstaff got really upset the other week about the calls and he was banging on the table and whatnot?
Tell
me more. He it was after one of those officiated games, and I think it was when Cade got ejected. Bickerstaff was really, really upset. And I'm like, that's interesting. But I got to tell you, I'm looking through. I watched the whole first quarter, then up into the melee and mini, and it's interesting. A couple of times it felt a little strange. Like if I were Bickerstaff, I would be upset. And I think that Pistons fans out there might agree with me wholeheartedly, be nodding their heads vociferously right now, as if there is something going on about the calls they're getting called for that aren't calls. Very strange. And it was like one referee in particular, like called it, somebody flashes the middle. I think it was Rudy. They threw it into him and he kind of bobbled it. And the defender didn't do hardly anything. And the guy was like calling a foul before the play happened. It was weird. He started to raise his arm and put it down, then he called it again. And that was strange. And then he makes another call. And then the next possession on the same play, because they called the foul on Detroit, they should have called an illegal screen on Gobert. That same ref did not call it. And they had to rely on another ref all the way on their side of the floor to come running in to call it, to make sure that Minnesota was penalized for that, because that ref did not want to penalize Minnesota. It was very strange.
My biggest takeaway was DiVincenzo is what the Knicks are missing. Because of you don't always correlate fighting with toughness, right? But he's a guy that'll stick up for his teammates, tough guy overall. And I feel like that is what the New York Knicks are missing this year. And I think a lot of it has to do with DiVincenzo not being there anymore. And I think this showed some of his toughness, if you will.
Interesting. I mean, certainly they're going to struggle without Brunson, who's out and still out.
No. I mean, they've been playing okay. Like the defense been better. They won last night. I mean, they're okay. It's just, they're obviously a better team when Brunson's there, but defensively, they're actually better because they don't have two turnstiles on defense with Cat and Brunson. They only have one now.
Right. Yeah. And then you can't overlook what Braun is telling us as well, is that Hartenstein as well was just a big loss for them, that they haven't really replaced, off the bench or however they would have played him this year. So that was rough. But that's an interesting take, because obviously DiVincenzo is the kind of player you'd want on your team. Great teammate, competes as hard as he can, gets into it as he's not 6'5", but he'll get into it with the bigs that we saw. What did we see? It wasn't just Naz Reid driving to the basket, getting stripped. And by the way, Naz Reid's reaction, he goes up for a layup. I'm almost thinking I captured it, and maybe I'll grab it real quick while we're talking. But do you saw the beginning of this? Did you have any inclination that what that foul by Holland merited anything like the finger pointing upsetness that we saw?
I think if you look at that play in isolation, I think that's right. But I think it was also boiling up the entire game. And even the Timberwolves head coach said he could feel it. And I think everybody could feel it in the building, what was about to happen. So, yeah, I see what you're saying, though, for sure.
We're all making the same point, which is, this was happening. This was a long time coming, several plays before. Although, interestingly enough, I didn't necessarily see anything with Naz Reid. I was looking at DiVincenzo. I was looking at Stewart. Okay, who's getting into it there? But and there was some physicality, not excessive. It didn't seem that way, even though everyone's like, "Oh, Detroit, they're really, really physical." I got to tell you, I didn't see anything excessive or even a lot. It's just it seemed all pretty more normal. The guy cuts through the lane, you put your hands on him, whatever, you go through. A couple stuff though, but I'm just going to see if I can maybe quickly share the drive, just because I want to get the replay angle if they can get there as we're talking. Because again, I just didn't feel like Naz Reid. Even still, this was not the play. Here it is. Let's present this. All right, can you see this? So here it is in real time.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, and by the way, he got a lot of ball, right? He got some ball. And so he hits him across the off arm, the left wrist, right? Again, it wasn't that hard. His left wrist kept going up,
Sometimes it looks harder than it seems, though. Okay.
So now I'm gonna have to go back again and look. I still didn't see it, but I gotta
find Wait a second. Go back.
Where? To here?
Wait, yeah. Let me see something.
All right. And if you're listening to this, what you're going to see is
wait, was he pointing at the ref or him?
He's pointing at Holland without question. And then the finger just gets off the target because
I thought maybe he was yelling at the ref and then Holland kind of just went at him after. I don't know.
But and now what I was trying to see as they by the way, this is horrible. This whole thing, I don't even have to show it, but it spilled into the stands. There was a woman that looked like she was hurt. I don't know if how strong it was. There was a little kid in there as well, or a couple little kids. This was bad. You cannot have that kind of thing spread into the stands like that, no matter what happens. I mean, that's why they wanted to get rid of fighting in the first place, because of what happened, way back in the day in Detroit. So, what I found interesting is, and you couldn't find really any other evidence of Pablo Prigioni, the assistant for the Timberwolves, and JB Bickerstaff getting into it, pointing fingers at each other. That was about it. And then they're both ejected. And I can't seem to find much other evidence of what's going on and why they were ejected, other than a funny line by Mike Inori, who said that Prigioni would do anything to get out of doing the halftime interview. And meanwhile, Prigioni before that is helping people, trying to get them out of the pile, the photographer, and be really nice and calm everybody down. So this would seem to me head scratching why they found him worthy of an ejection. But what other thoughts do you have about it?
Well, isn't it that if you leave the bench, you're automatically fined?
I don't think. The finding and ejection for a player that's not in the game is a problem. But coaches, I believe, can do that, can get out there and be peacemakers.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about how they wanted to take the fighting out of the game, but maybe every trend has a tipping point when you go too far in the other direction. And I know people are not happy with how friendly the league has become. So obviously we don't want to see it go to the stands, but maybe a little bit of roughing each other up isn't so bad,
Well, okay, let's talk about that, because, I'm watching the NCAA tournament, and, none of the games have been amazing. There have been a couple of good ones. We have all number one seeds get through, which either is a fault of the seeding because, they kind of got it exactly right, where all four number one seeds are supposed to get there. But it also indicates, like in the past, we'd had some incredible upsets, and probably because certain seeds were in the wrong place, right? They were better than they were. They shouldn't be, whatever. And that happens. And we're all lucky because we get those great games. But something about the play is much more interesting to me than the NBA this year.
I think you're right. Well, it has a lot to do with it. We'll get to Kawhi a little bit. I mean, and his shot profile is a little bit different than some other players, but you see more post-ups. You see a little more mid-range. You got the three-point shooting as well. There is some analytic aspect to it. I know Todd Golden leans into analytics, and Florida does. So you got a little bit of that in there, which I don't mind as long as it's not excessive like the Rockets. But I think we see more of a balance in college basketball. Obviously, the players aren't anywhere near as good in general, besides the top prospects who are going to eventually go to the NBA. But, the level of play is a lot higher in terms of the players in the NBA, but the balance of play is a lot better in college, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I even get to the next level of that where it's just the intensity. As hard as they're
I mean, every game, you can't compare a regular season to a one and done situation.
Right. Now, that said, there have been moments in the NBA in the past where we did have intensity during the regular season. So,
but never like March Madness.
Okay, fair enough. But I got to tell you, there's got to be more. We need more from the NBA on that end. That might be what I'm responding to. Now, also, I want to make it clear, what's also nice about the NCAA is they are using modern basketball now. They've been able to welcome and accept, and we were seeing a lot more of that, which is great because
and it's not all and it's not
dribble, lowering your shoulder, BS post ups in college, and they end up in a miss or a tough shot or whatever. It's really frustrating that like we went away from the post up in the pros because they thought it wasn't efficient enough, even though it was simply the way that they were charting them. That was the problem with synergy. So but as a result, like the whole post-up game itself from every level down is just disintegrated. We don't have the kind of creativity and cleverness that we used to have. And as a result, you're just seeing a lot of these guys just kind of bullying in there. And I never liked those post-ups, even way back in the day when they would do that. It's a lack of skill. It's an overpowering thing that's not really what basketball is supposed to be about. And you're seeing guys struggle. They get out of balance. They don't get the call they want. The ball goes flying around. They get stripped, all this stuff. It's like, I wish they go away from that a little bit more in college as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I'm not the biggest post-up guy, but I think if you put a little bit of that in there, sprinkle a little bit of that in there, it's not bad. We see Janai from Auburn. I mean, he's really great in the post. We saw Timmy get a call up to the Nets. He's great in the post and doesn't fit the mold of the modern player. So I think balance is good, but I would also say you have to be really efficient in the post to warrant post touches, right? If you're not efficient in the post, you shouldn't even be in the post because it'll ruin the flow of basketball. So, I see what you're saying.
I agree with you. I like the post up. I just think we need to get back to the Hakeem and Mikhail, all those guys, getting back to that kind of style of playing, using your cleverness versus just.
Well, those guys are just a lot better than the post players you're talking about in college. They're just it's a different level, you know.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not sure they're training. I don't know if they're working on all that well enough. And if they are, maybe without defense, so they get into the games, they don't have it. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding right now. I'm just seeing way too many of those post-ups where they're just lowering their shoulder and just kind of like galloping into the paint.
A little bit less of that, though.
A little bit, all right.
Now in college, now, don't you think?
Listen. How many games have I seen in this NCAA tournament? I've seen probably a dozen. So I haven't seen them all, but I am seeing a lot. I'm seeing more of that what I described than anything else. But I mean,
don't you think it's been worse in the past?
It's probably the same in terms of that, and individual skill, demonstration down low.
No, I'm saying in terms of balance of play. It's better.
Balance. It's definitely better in terms of spreading the floor.
They're starting offenses further out. I noticed.
Yeah, that's better. That's what I'm saying. That is really great. I'm really excited to see that because you kept seeing all these floppy sets and all these pin downs, and there's no space in the lane at all anyway. That's part of the reason why we didn't have as many dunks back in the day was because the spacing was just so bad that you couldn't get to the basket. And if you did, there was another guy right on top of you, and you got to have to do a floater or a layup or whatever. You couldn't get to the basket to elevate and then throw it down close enough. And that's good. But at any rate, and there's, by the way, I have a whole series that I've been developing as far as how to attack on the catch in the post, which hopefully will start to, more people will start doing it like Şengün does. If you watch Şengün carefully, he will split his feet on the catch with the back to the basket, and now he's got the guy out of position right away versus catching it, looking, dribble, lower, all that stuff. And all that slow post up is frustrating.
Catching on the move and catching on the downhill is definitely an underrated skill, especially since the jab step and kind of ISO basketball, not in the live dribble, has kind of been phased out a little bit, just, catch, read, react, shoot, dribble, pass. I think that's not only important in the post, but it's also important from the perimeter. And you mentioned Şengün. I mean, international players have mastered the art of catching on the downhill, I think, a lot better than players in the States have.
Yeah. What's funny is that I was working with one of my high school guys yesterday. He really wanted to go over like the one dribble pull up. And I was like, okay.
Well, now they want you to one dribble sidestep from three.
I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what we were working on. Then all of a sudden he's like, no, I want to be able to do it in the mid range. I'm like, okay. And by the way, if there's anyone qualified to do that, it's me, because that is all we did growing up. I mean, it's kind of fun to go back deep into the bag to, pull out the one dribble pull up from mid.
There's some players that still do it. Rui Hachimura. He does that.
Okay. Yeah. And some guys who are good enough to shoot it, they can do that. You might as well get an open space. Steph can, for sure.
Kawhi for sure, if he wants to.
Yeah. But, it's just weird thinking about it. By the way, you know what I ended up doing? I was working with him on how to pull quickly to, get the shot off quicker. And also I'm like, oh, what I'm doing is I'm teaching him the Shea pull up, which is basically you're doing it. The guy's on top of you and you're going to get the foul call every time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's do it. We might as well do it. And that's really what it was. It's really what I was trying to help him. It's late gather. So the gather is the ball is up here on higher, and then as you are planting the second foot to jump, that is when you actually gather the ball. You don't gather it any earlier than that, which is what a lot of guys will gather and go left, right, and shoot it, right? And then you lose all your options. So by doing it as a left and then gather right at the same time to jump, that's when you're going to end up getting those fouls because the defender thinks that you're not pulling up there and he's close and you're going straight up. Like I was demonstrating on a defender and he kept fouling me every time I did it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you see?
Let's get it up there. Ben, thanks so much, Ben. Always great to see you, friend of the breakdown. And don't forget, if you want your question asked, the best way to do that is with the super chat function over on the YouTube side. And Ben says, did you guys catch the flopping tech on JJJ on Memphis? I didn't see it, but we finally got a flopping tech. Is it on Twitter? Let's see. I don't know if I can find it. Let's do this real quick.
Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah. March 29th. I see it. So is that the one against the Lakers? It looks like it. Although, wait, did they make the call or no? Maybe that's a foul.
Out of all the people, they give it to JJJ.
Let me just see if this is it or not. I don't know. I don't think that's it. So anyone, tell me in the comments if that's it. If that's the one against against LeBron, guys. That's what it is. Because I'll share it. We'll put it up. Let me make this into a full screen, and let's share it. This is it. Let's see here. All right, this is riveting for the audio people out there. But you know what? We'll describe it for them. They can hear it. But here, I believe that this is it. It was a pretty bad flop. Let's see. Oh, that's the wrong button. Why? Sometimes it doesn't go full screen like I wanted to. Let's try it one more time. No. All right, let me do this. Do this. All right, here we go. So you can see it. Let's press play. The bottom of the screen, there it is. So that was called on LeBron because LeBron's not happy about that. Did they reverse it later and give him the flop? Somebody tell me. I don't know why I didn't see that. Because that can't be the call. This can't be what he does here. Can't be. I mean, all he does is kind of go to the ground. I mean, LeBron doesn't stick his hip out or anything. So that can't be a foul on LeBron. But it looks like LeBron looked upset. Anyhow, that was a good, if we could finally get a good flopping call, Tech, I'd be really ecstatic. Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, it'd be fun. They got to do it consistently if they're going to do it, though. I just don't want to see it on JJJ, It's like.
Yeah.
And
you know what? And maybe he's getting around LeBron. He's kind of fell, and that could be part of it. Like it wasn't necessarily flop. He's just trying to get around. I see. The Lakers asked for a ref challenge. They called it offensive foul. Wow. Okay. So that's gross. Unless there's something else, maybe we can't see from right before that. But anyhow. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting more flops out of the game and using the tools they have in real time. It's hard. I don't blame the refs for not, they want to be certain on everything they make. So, all right. So it was overturned after the review. Okay, great. I understand what you're saying now, Ben and Dubs. All right. So they didn't. So they got rid of the offensive foul on LeBron, and then did they call it a flop on review? Maybe they could do that. At any rate, good question. What else are we here to talk about?
Kawhi Leonard. Last 10 games, 25 points a game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 54% from the field, 46% from 3. And he's just from the eye test, really surgical in the mid-range. And he's looking dominant. I'd say Kawhi is now their best player, but James Harden is their most valuable player. And also Norm Richardson is playing like an all-star. So it's been
Norm Richardson. Did he change his last name?
Oh, Norman Powell. Norman Powell, like an all-star.
Yeah, because Norm Richardson, he's somebody else, right? Isn't that somebody?
Yeah, he played in the league for a little bit. New York guy. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. The numbers are a little bit. You want to say last 10? Let's just look at the last 7 because this is impressive from Kawhi. Even more impressive. 27 points a game. 26.7. His field goal percentage is 59.2% in the last 7.
Trending upwards.
Percentage is 57.6%. I think those are higher than what you said the last 10, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then he's getting, almost there's about 4 assists a game. No turnover, 1.4 turnovers, which a guy handles the ball that much is impressive. That's the thing that coaches probably love about him the most. He's just so consistent, doesn't turn the ball over and get you your shots up. He's not going to throw amazing dimes, but he'll make the right pass when he needs to, when he draws enough attention, and then you get in return get those assists. So yeah, he looks good. He doesn't elevate like he used to, but he still looks explosive. He's actually like going from a stop to a start in a really explosive way, getting guys on his hip. And then he also is stronger than he's ever been too. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, definitely. Because you know why? He snakes the pick and roll, and then he gets them on his backside, and they're done. They're toast.
Yeah, those shoulders to me look bigger than they've been, and guys are really bouncing off. And his only issue now is with his age or whatever is that, there's a little bit of leverage on him. He's trying to elevate off 1 foot. That's still a little bit. And we see LeBron struggle with that too at certain ages. So, but other than that, I mean, the guy hasn't missed hardly at all. The range in the 3-point shot looks a little bit deeper as well, which has always been an issue. The way he has a high release, it's harder to generate power that way. And he's been able to get those low. And by the way, he doesn't shoot for a lot of arc either. So you got to be pretty precise. And so he's on right now with that. He's got that locked down. It's pretty amazing.
He's a machine when he's at his best. That's what he reminds me of, just a machine, scoring machine, defense machine. When he was at his best, he was arguably the best defensive player in the league and arguably the best offensive player in the league for that stretch there where he won a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's posting up, in line with his normal numbers. And he's terrific down there. Our load, if he faces up, you're dead. And but he's got that nice turnaround of the baseline. So all those things, it's vintage. I'm going to do a video on him this week. I'm kind of just debating if I want to try and. He doesn't do interviews, right? I don't think I've ever seen him do hardly any interviews. But I was thinking about seeing if I could beg the Clippers to let me talk to him a little bit for a few minutes. But we'll see.
Wow, it doesn't hurt to ask.
We'll see. But
you know what's interesting about Clippers media? I didn't even realize that Fratello is still working.
Yeah,
bizarre.
Yeah, he's still doing.
I remember him as a kid. He never bubbles up in like national media. Like I never see him on YouTube. And then just looking through the Kawhi stuff, I saw some of him. I'm like, oh wow, that's a throwback.
Jackson was doing it, and then he came in. I don't know if they're splitting it or not, but I know Jim's been busy with the NCAA too. So
who's been doing it? Who's been doing it?
Jim Jackson.
He's really good, actually.
Yeah. I don't know if he was doing Clippers this year or not. I don't often listen to the sound and any of those stuff.
He's great. He's great with college. He's one of the best, I think.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. I mean, listen, that's my era. I remember when James Jackson was coming out of high school to go to Ohio State, and hey, you better watch this guy.
He was like an all-star level player that was a journeyman at the same time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was a weird time. That weird like late '90s era into the 2000s, and he was part of that Dallas team that had Jason Kidd and. It was Jamal Mashburn. They had a big three, and they tried to run the triangle, and it completely fell apart.
Okay.
We have a new super chat from Pimp named Slickback. Thank you so much. Great to see you. It's been a while, but always great to see you out here. Thank you. The question is a Nets fan. Looks like we might end up in the 6 to 8 range in the draft. Any prospects to help us Nets fans off the ledge who wanted Cooper? This is more your realm than mine. Anybody that falls to 6 or 8 that you like?
It'd be nice to see the Nets get one of the Rutgers kids, but I think they're going top 5, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's the range where it really starts to fall off, unfortunately.
Wait, are you saying that Rutgers had 2 players in the draft in the top 5?
Crazy, right? And then the craziest thing is that they weren't good.
Right. Did they make the tournament?
No, they weren't good. They weren't even good in their conference.
Is that a video?
That could be a video. And
they're going to the college team. Literally, like, let's just say that it could be top 6 or 7, right? That must never have happened before, ever.
Well, here's the thing, that with the NIL now, the transfer portal, the top teams have a lot of talent and their experience at the same time. So the teams with really good freshmen can't compete. So it's almost the opposite of the one and done era.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe that the NIL will keep players in college a little bit longer.
It can. Yeah, it can.
Interesting. I know it's made it brutal for any high school kids coming out to get offers.
Oh yeah.
Transfer portal now. So unless you're a top, I mean, they're still coming
McDonald's
out.
McDonald's game tomorrow. So
what?
McDonald's game is tomorrow. So you'll see some of the kids who will be getting the offers.
But I'll throw this out there: the Florida point guard, is he going to be in the top 10?
The Florida point.
Walter, somebody help me here. It's funny. Because again, I don't watch college. I don't know anybody. I sometimes spend a week before the tournament to kind of catch up, and I didn't have time this time. So I'm watching Florida, and I'm like, oh, that guy, he's pretty good. Their guard, Walter, somebody, come on, somebody tell me in the comments. And maybe he's a junior or a third or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's good. He's pretty good. And then I'm like, gosh, he's really good. And I'm like, wow, wait, how good is this guy? And then I call him. He's an All-American, right? And he hit that shot. You saw that shot, right? That three that like a step back three that he started in the lane.
So according to Tankathon, like, you could get maybe Con Canupel, who's I like his game from Duke.
Yeah.
And then
I even know how his name is pronounced though.
What?
Knipple.
Oh, it's Knipple? Okay.
Yeah. So I had that. Walter Clayton, thank you, Bron, and maybe Junior. Walter Clayton. I don't know. Do you know that guy? Because I'm telling you, that guy is legit.
Well, it don't look like he's in the top.
No. Oh, well.
30 even.
I mean, he's going to be one of those guys, and I get it. He's probably like 6'1" in shoes and whatever, but like, I don't know. You watch a guy like that, and that just seems to me like he can figure it out because he's driving, he's finishing, and he can get that three off. I was really impressed with that guy. And that's exactly the kind of player you have to have in college to get all the way to the Final Four. You got to have a guard like that. As far as I'm concerned, I got to check, make sure all the other four teams do, but I'm pretty sure they do in some respects. I watched some Michigan State. I kind of hate watch Michigan State because I think it's well documented. I don't like the coach, so I would kind of cheer against Michigan State when I watch him.
You don't like Tom Izzo?
No.
Why? Because
he's listen. He recruits as well as anybody. He gets the most elite athletes he can, more than most. His X's and O's are pretty good, and they play hard. But his communication methods are so suboptimal. Although in his older age, he seems like maybe he's calmed down a little bit. But it's well documented that I've talked about how anger and disgust are not the tools you should be using. And I've also had to go through this with like Michigan State fans about why all the players, they love him and they come back and they hug him and all this stuff. And it's like really just basically abuse. And when you see in domestic situations where abused wives continue to stay, there's some aspect of that as well with what he does to them, and it's just suboptimal. And I worry that it's under the guise of like making. And we talked about this last time, under the guise of making your players tough. Based on whether their personality might be or might not, you're basically talking a lot about abuse and torture. Remember we talked about this the other day with Draymond Green. Do you think that Tom Izzo made Draymond Green as tough as he is?
First of all, I don't think any one player could make any one player tough. And I think it's a combination of their experiences, whether it's nature, whether it's nurture, that makes the player the way they are. And that's part of the issue with coaching. Coaches now take credit, and they don't do it directly, but they'll say things and they'll take credit for everything that player was. Which really, that player is the reason why that player is good a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But proceed.
It's a little different because a lot of times that's like the guy's a good scorer. Oh, I taught him everything he knows. But I'm talking about
also like trainers will be like, we did this thing in the summer, and they'll like show like everything they did and like kind of reverse engineering why that player is great.
Right.
And they'll make it seem like, even though they won't say it directly, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is why this guy does this on the court.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you can't like, it's not really like that. It's
right.
All the experiences of that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know for a fact that Draymond Green is wired that way. I mean, he is ultra. And by the way, you might even argue that what he got from Izzo ends up being what's so detrimental to him in the NBA. Because he didn't really learn how to keep enough of that control of it where he can ride it and use it to his advantage, but also not get into such trouble.
At the end of the day, he's a Hall of Famer. So
yeah. So right, but again, there's more optimal ways to tap into that, and certainly there are obviously the opposite of that of Draymond. If you're going to try and make that player into Draymond, you're just going to end up torturing the kid his whole life, maybe ruin the love of basketball for him as well. under this notion that, like, yes, if I show enough anger and disgust at them and grab them and they push them and all this stuff, that they're going to become hardened and molded into some other version and other whole personality type. Like, that doesn't happen either. So, I'm sure Izzo also recruits that kind of player. So they're already in that mix when they get there, which is good. And you can kind of tell that a lot of those players are like that. But at any rate, it's not that he doesn't teach the game of basketball well. He certainly does. And he's on the most wins in the Big Ten. It's just the communication methods are suboptimal a lot of the time. And again, it seems like it's a lot less, it's a little bit more muted, which in some respects makes me feel good that perhaps he's finally accepted that. Because in years past, when he's gotten criticism from people like me, he's been really sarcastic in his response and just dismissive. And it's possible that I don't know, how good was this team this year? What were they ranked second or third in the tournament?
Well, also the thing about them is they won by committee, and they didn't really have. I mean, Jace Richardson is going to be possibly a lottery pick, but they've had more talent in the past.
Okay, I know it's funny. I'm trying to picture Jace in particular, and nothing's standing out in the I don't know, the 2 games I watched in the tournament. Is he like his dad?
No, very different.
Okay, I can't picture him.
He's kind of like he's a 6 foot guard. He's a 6 foot guard, nowhere near as athletic as his dad was, but like good feel for the game, does a little bit of everything.
Oh, he's a lottery pick like that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because
first round.
The interesting thing about Knipple was, like, you're looking at. I mean, first of all, Cooper Flagg, in my mind, is still just the best player in basketball, #1 pick. It should be a really great pro, great feel.
Yeah. Definitely.
Then I started hearing whispers from around, like, is Knipple, like, should he be up there, right there with him as well? And I kind of feel like he doesn't necessarily have the game that's going to translate as well.
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't know how his game translates because
you might say, well, Luka was slow and this and that, whatever, but we forgot Luka was EuroLeague MVP at the age of 18. Yeah, and remember, Luka was dunking on guys. Like, we forgot he wasn't like slow like he is now. After all these years,
he's still not slow.
He plays at that pace, right? So it feels that way. But he doesn't have that burst like he used to, and that's fine because he's figured out how to continue to make be amazing without it. But like Knipple, I don't see he doesn't have it now at this age, so I don't think he's going to get it. But I think he could be good. Right, I got to look a little bit more at his ball handling and his driving, like that kind of stuff, because I'm not that as familiar as I need to be with him. But I'll do another deep dive. Anyway, we got some more super chats to get to, so let's go to Stinky Dipey, I believe is how you pronounce that. Should the New York Knicks do a Cavs and get a modern coach? What do you think? You're at home in New York. What do you think?
Well, shouts to Bickerstaff first of all, because he's doing really well with the Pistons. So. But I think both sides made the right move. When it comes to the Knicks, yes, I do believe the Knicks need a new coach, and I do believe that new coach should be Jay Wright, who was playing modern basketball before modern basketball was a thing. Tibbs' style of substitutional patterns has not been good since the Chicago Bulls days when Derrick Rose was playing meaningless minutes, inevitably tearing his ACL and changing the course of the Bulls franchise and Derrick Rose's career. You can't put that all on Tibbs, but it was the same situation with the T-Wolves, and now it's the same situation with the Knicks. The Knicks, throughout the course of the season, the starters play too much minutes. Mikal Bridges, the Iron Man himself, even complained about it, right? Look, as a player, I would never complain about too many minutes, but, that's what he did, and it kind of shows what Tibbs is doing with his players, and those guys are tired. So right here on the B-Ball Breakdown live show, I'm calling for Jay Wright to be the new coach of the New York Knicks.
I'm just looking. I'm not even a fan of exactly what they're doing offensively across the board this year, but they're 5th in offensive rating. So, that's elite. They're doing really well either way. And certainly they're exciting when they have them out there. But you're right. And I often wonder, what if they finally got Tibbs a roster that really goes 9-10 deep? In theory, would he even do that? Right?
Look at you defending the head coach. Usually lighting them on fire.
For so long back in the day, and I know part of it is that the pace is a lot faster now, so that playing all those extra minutes wasn't a big deal. Like Jordan could play 39 minutes a game, and on a much slower pace. I'm all for, as these players are also assets that you have to protect and have extend in longevity wise for all that money you're paying them. It's a weird fault of his that he'll never fix. So if that's pretty much the one thing you could pretty much point to say that's the biggest issue, I think, with him. X's and O's are fine. He can adjust, playoff series. I believe. I don't think that's an issue as much. But it's pretty severe, right? And it led to that's what the Pacers did last year. If you don't remember, they played the long game and just pushed the ball as fast as they possibly could every time, and they eventually wore them out. OG had the hamstring, which I think was completely related to that. And then unfortunately Brunson gets hurt, but they got worn out even by the end anyway. Even though before Brunson got hurt, it looked like the Pacers had just kind of gotten to the late enough round where they were going to win that. So I mean, Jay Wright is the goat of the goats, as far as in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
I respect that.
He's terrific on TV too, which he might really enjoy doing. But
I thought Combo was the goat of the goats, but we could go with Jay Wright. I'm not mad at that, Coach Nick.
For college basketball coaches.
Okay.
Limited to that.
All right.
So I would imagine that this. Okay, how about this? Does Chib's fate rest on their performance in the playoffs?
Oh yeah. Now, I mean, so somebody in the comment section, tell me right now who the Knicks will be playing in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. It could be the Pistons, right?
Well,
or the Bucks.
They will be playing. The Knicks are third. They'd be playing the Bucks.
Well, the Bucks lost Dame, and we could actually segue to that eventually because we were supposed to talk about that a little bit. But the Bucks will not beat them with no Dame. No,
that is true. I don't know if they beat him with Dame the way they've been playing either. But then again, without Brunson,
Dame's season this year was better than last year's, and they added Kuzma. It was a win now move. Now that move looks really bad because Dame obviously has the unfortunate blood clot. But
right, and again, we just saw blood clot from Wemby, and he's out for the season. I know he's younger; they want to really protect that. But
Asar Thompson had one.
What?
Asar Thompson had one. Chris Bosh, obviously. Yeah.
So I'm going to call. I got to check that and make sure. Maybe it's already online. I don't know how quickly you come back from that anyway before they clear you. Maybe in the playoffs, but there's not a lot of time. There's only 8 games left in the season, so it's a huge blow to the Bucks. But I don't know what the Bucks were going to expect anyway. Probably a first round exit now, but they got to get Brunson back if they want to win that.
I totally agree. And did you have the TikTok camera on?
What's the TikTok camera?
I'm just saying that should be short form content.
I forgot, Combo. I forgot you wanted me to go to this.
It's okay. I'll figure it out because I think I'm going to clip that Tibbs thing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But I'll go like that now. So anyway, Combo wanted me, in case you're watching, was to go split screen like this. And by the way, it's some weird glitch with StreamYard where it's set up this way. And when I go share the screen for the intro card and I come back, we're not even on the stage anymore. I'm like, I don't know what happens. It's like a weird, they changed it. I got to figure it out.
Can the chat vote if they like this better? We need a vote.
Yeah. Well, you can either say it on Twitter as a reply to maybe the tweet I wrote, or let us know in the chat. Yeah. Do you like the full screen, this thing without the fancy background? All right, let's get to our another super chat. Jada Ray, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for doing this. It really helps keep this show going. And so we really appreciate it. Happy Monday, Coach. Just wondering, which teams in NBA history had some of your favorite defensive sets? Wow. I mean, you can't go too far back because there's all man-to-man. They didn't have anything that exciting. Now, the Bulls in 1985 did try running a 1-3-1 half-court trap thing. In fact, you want to know how sick I was? I went with paper and pen to one of those games to diagram it. That way, which makes me think that maybe the games weren't always on TV back then.
Paper and pen. What year was this?
85.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember doing that. But let's see. Other than that, defensively, I mean, certainly the Warriors' defensive teams with Draymond as the all-time GOAT in that, and the way he quarterbacked was really exciting. And we saw some stuff last year. I think the Celtics and it wasn't Denver, I don't think, but it was somebody else who was doing some really great scram switching to eliminate size advantage and mismatches. And so I really, really love to see that stuff. Now, what I really want to see is someone run my chase defense in the NBA, because we're getting more and more of that. The Warriors are running a 1-3-1 right now, which I like. And if you watch it carefully, you end up seeing a lot of the guy behind the ball chasing and into the middle guy in the 1-3-1. And so they're almost there. It's like another practice, and they can start running my chase defense. So so I don't know, but other than that, then I feel like the other ideas I'm going to have in terms of distant pass or whatever would just be players themselves, defensive players like Rodman and those kind of guys. What about you? What are your feelings on this question?
Favorite defensive sets?
Yeah,
let me think. Okay, I mean, I don't know about defensive sets, but I like the grittiness and the Derek Harper hand checking of the 90s Knicks. How about that? I like their defense. And then they had the trees down low and a lot of bodies when you got in the lane. I think that was one of my.
You had Pitino coaching him with the press for a while.
Pitino had his cup of coffee in the league. The Celtics, the Knicks, right? Shouts to Pitino, man.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if this is public knowledge, but their best player, RJ, St. John's. I believe his name is RJ, is leaving because Pitino benched him at the end of the game.
I went through that to see why, because he
RJ, right?
5 minutes.
RJ, yep.
Yeah, and they lost that game to Arkansas, and I can't believe that Calipari beat Pitino either. But
right.
I mean, it was so embarrassing. Arkansas, they won the first. I think it was the first round. They couldn't even get the ball.
Yeah, RJ Lewis. Yeah.
And somehow they got all the way to whatever that round was, and they lost it, and they beat St. John's. I can't believe it, but I went through that game, and I got to tell you, there were a couple shots maybe that he kind of forced up quick, but that was it. Now, if he took him out because he just wasn't shooting well, okay, but I got the impression he took him out because he wasn't playing like St. John's basketball, which to me means he was gunning the whole time. And that was so not the case. And if you want to take out one of your starters, and when you're the highest minute player you have on your team in crunch time of a tournament game, good luck is all I could tell you. Like, you know what that's like when you lose a starter for an injury or foul trouble or whatever. The whole thing gets disrupted. You're not used to that. All season long you played in crunch time with that guy there. Why not help him figure it out? You have a timeout. You talk to him a little bit. You try and get him right from your mind or anything like that versus what you did. So that I disagree with what Pitino did because whatever he thought he saw, I just don't think was there. Like that was what was the key to me. You know what I mean?
Well, I also do think it was a part of the game that RJ probably wasn't going to turn it around, and his body language wasn't that good. With that said, I mean, he's been rolling with him the whole season, and he's been their first or second best player, depending on how you want to look at it. And you kind of you have to understand the modern times that we're in. That the power dynamics are not the same in college basketball. You got some of these players making millions of dollars. They have more power. They can leave when they want. And I don't think it was beneficial to bench him at that point. And obviously it wasn't because the kid's transferring, but maybe Pitino doesn't care. And he's just
maybe. I don't know. I mean, and he probably, I don't know if he was thinking that at the moment, because that's what you got to be thinking about now as a coach. He's like, man, if I bench him in the NCAA tournament game in the last 5 minutes, he might leave. Like that's going to be on people's minds now going forward, which is too bad. But it's interesting because I don't know how old school I am on this because I've always wanted the players to benefit from all their hard work. It makes sense to me. Certainly coaches get to jump wherever they want to go for however much money they want at any time. Right.
Right.
So that's all compelling arguments to me, but in theory, you could withstand that with a good enough relationship with your players. But that's also, what's going to happen. He might've been leaving anyway, right? We don't even know. Let's go to another super chat. Thank you so much, K-Mike from Poland. Hi from Poland. Combo's love for Luka is unmatched. Thank you for the, I looked it up. Zlotys is the Polish.
I just want to, can I ask a follow-up question to K-Mike?
Yeah.
Did we talk about Luka that much? Oh, because I said that he didn't slow down. Maybe that's why, or was it from a previous episode? But thanks for the super chat. Okay.
No, Luka is fantastic. It's terrific, and it's been such a fun thing to see him out there with LeBron.
You know what it was? It's probably more about Combo than even Luka because I was telling people he should be the #1 pick in the draft, and I probably hold on to that. So there probably is a little bit of Luka bias, even more than love, because once I say somebody's going to be great, I kind of roll with them.
Yeah, right. Well, you want it to be true.
Yeah, I want it to be true. Exactly.
Yeah, you got to be the ball. I mean, listen, I was right there with you. I have the video, but when before he got drafted, saying why he needs to be the number 1 pick, and showed it. So I was early on that as well, and yeah, it would be amazing if he lost more weight, got really in shape, got healthy, got rid of all the little nagging injuries and stuff, and got back to moving the way we'd seen him back then. That would be, I mean, oh my God, that would be crazy.
Yeah, different things work for different people. Shaq is probably a top 10 player of all time. There was a lot of times during the course of his career he wasn't in the best of shape. I would also say this: for you to average 34 points in the NBA, you have to be in some kind of shape. So
yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So yeah.
Let's get to another one. Thank you so much, Ben. Ben, a repeat one, super chat. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. And he says, "What do you think of the feud between Stephen A. and LeBron?" Combo, do you want to lead off with this one?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, before Stephen A. started just lying or he was misinformed about facts, like where LeBron was on the unfortunate, funeral of Kobe Bryant, the unfortunate passing, R.I.P. Kobe. Like, I thought it was fair game on both sides before that. I didn't like that at all, because LeBron felt like he was doing his job as a father, and Stephen A. does have the right to critique any NBA player. But I think what LeBron took personal was when Stephen A. said that this is not, I'm pleading with you as a father. I'm pleading with you as a father not to do this. And I see why LeBron got mad and got at Stephen A. But LeBron also did Stephen A. a favor by doing it publicly. And now Stephen A. is still talking about it till this day, to the fact where Michael Wilbon is like, I don't even want to talk about Bronny anymore because this is too much. So I know the other funny thing is that Stephen A. was saying that I didn't intend on talking about this, which was absolute BS. Like he really wanted to talk about this bad, and he's been talking about it since.
Oh, well, okay. So if somebody didn't have the presence of mind to film it and put it up on social media, you don't think he would have talked about it, or you think he would have talked about it anyway?
Nobody would have cared, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. There's certainly a power to the visual evidence of seeing it happen, and then the response to that. Whereas if he had to describe it later and after the fact, it might not have been as compelling or interesting. I don't think he would have talked about it if it was privately. Yeah, right. And I think it's just the dumbest thing possible. And I think LeBron was dumb to do what he did. I think Stephen A. was dumb. The whole thing is dumb. I'm probably more like Wilbon on this one, but we talked about it when it happened, and I think we probably ought to talk about Bronny. Like I did a deep dive of his footage to see, like, okay, he's playing a lot better, he's averaging 20, whatever, but I wasn't that impressed. I felt like he was still, the turnovers were really a problem. To me, it's like that's what I like to look at is the turnovers, decision making. How comfortable does that look? And it didn't feel that way. So
I mean, he's like 18. What is he? 18 now? 19?
He's probably 19. Yeah.
I mean, he dropped 39 in the G League recently. He dropped 17 in the NBA. I mean, really, all this comes down to is how he'll fit around Luka. Like, can you spot up and hit a three? Can you guard?
Yeah.
If you can do that, if you could do that, he'll have a job with the Lakers for a long time to come, I think.
Okay. Well, he's not ready. Still not ready. Even the 17 points in like a crazy blowout didn't seem to mean a lot to anybody. Now, that's the other thing that's interesting is that I think over time, with enough games, the focus of him being LeBron's son will dissipate. And so he won't get the kind of defense that I'm sure that they're playing on him, right? I think they're keying on him because of that, the defenders, to really make sure he doesn't get off, he can't get whatever. And then, if he can finally get to a spot where he's just blending in and being there playing his role, then he'll be able to find some success as well in this game. So that's part of it. And that just takes time, I think, to ultimately wear off like, hey, this is Bronny. I'm going to show him, right? I still think that's happening. But he's got to get better anyway. And you're right. There's lots of room for him to improve over the next couple of years. And hopefully we see that he needs it. And if we do, then he could be a productive player in the NBA.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's easy to say that and then be wrong. And we can be like, oh, well, it was a possibility. It didn't happen. But, I'm willing to say that, but again, there's too many caveats right now. He's got to get better skill wise and decision making and experience and all that stuff, which again, experience is easy. That's the easiest thing you can do is just keep playing.
Yeah. So he has a chance to be a rotational NBA player for sure.
Yeah. And by the way, the other argument is that most of the individual development in the college is so bad that he's doing himself a favor by going to the G League and getting pro development coaches with him right now. and being able to focus on that. But I want to start seeing more results over
I heard it's getting better in college. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it has to, because it couldn't get much worse. Honestly, it was stuck in college. There was like a long period where the methods they were using were 40 years old, and there was no evolution, and not enough evolution. A little bit here and there. Jay Wright kind of understood a little bit of it, but it didn't trickle down far enough. And,
Pitino does a good job of individual workouts during the season.
Didn't we talk about that last time?
Yeah,
absolutely. The Pitino method is still the best I've seen, and I can't believe that not every single coach structures their offenses or their practices that way. If you missed it, really quickly, I'll just tell you. Back in the day, I don't know if it's still the same way. You had 18 hours a week of practice time with the players, so we would do 6 days a week. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 20 hours. We do 6 days a week for 3 hours, which is insane, and there's no way you should do 3-hour practices. And then they had 2 hours left. That would be 2 1-hour individual sessions with an assistant coach and a manager, like I was. And that was the highlight of my time there, because it was like Stan Van Gundy and me and another player and a player, and just going over individual stuff, fade cuts to 3, or split your feet and tack, and pull-ups, all sorts of stuff. It was really awesome. And in fact, I'd argue they should double that. You should have 4 of those every week, and then make those 3-hour practices a lot less, and then you'll be in business.
Better players, better teams. So yeah, you got to work on your players.
All right, well, Combo, I think a good show as always. A little weird start to this thing. I think I'll figure it out by next time, hopefully. But anyway, really good stuff. Thank you, everybody out there from Poland and beyond coming on the super chats. Really, really appreciate that. Anything else we got to talk about before we head out?
Nope, that's all.
All right, well. Thanks, everybody, out there for being part of the show. And thank you, Combo, for being here as always. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?
Yes, sir.